And as we get our meeting going here, we're opening up our lobby for a kind of a mingling opportunity amongst the section managers and the experts here. And we're saying hello to our growing list of attendees that have just entered, 12 and counting. So hello, friends of SMPTE.
Hello, everyone.
And no, we can't hear them. So
they can't speak, of course.
Right. So and they their webcams also do not work. So we can just hope they have nice things to say. Actually, we can manually enable a camera to be put on. So if one of the attendees were to message us in the chat window, then we and ask us to turn their mic on or enable it, then you can turn it on, and then we can at least have a chat with you. So I see other folks like Greg and Carl and folks are in there that might want to say hi. Tom Casey, hello.
Hello.
I see 25.
Yes, it's getting up there. No, that's 25 out of 500 in that window. It's actually 14 that have joined it so far. Carl has.
Nice pop, George. Is that one of 5 or 6?
Only 3.
You downsized.
Carl Paulson, you have been unmuted. Hello, Carl.
Hello there. How's everybody?
Hey guys.
We're good. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Enjoying the 11th month at home, or no, 13th month at home. Sorry.
Oh, Carl, not lucky 13.
Carl, are you going to be able to go back?
Well, those of you know that I live my life on the road, it's been a change.
Really, it's seriously crazy. You must be going.
This is how the other half does it, Carl.
Probably more so for Jenny than for you.
See, I think Jay Hahn wants to say something. Let me unmute your mic. Okay, Jay, you're open if you unmute it. Yeah, and really, I think there is a message that somebody can.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Hi, Jay. Yeah, we can. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. It's really great to see all of you. You know, I've seen some of you on different webcam conversations here over the last several months, but it's great to see. I know we're not in person, but it's really great to see everybody.
Good to have you here.
You as well.
So are you in Washington or are you in Pittsburgh?
I'm in Pittsburgh 2 weeks. I'm just started 2 weeks back in Pittsburgh and then 2 weeks in DC, 2 weeks in Pittsburgh, back and forth.
That's a lot of travel, even when there's not a lot of people on the road. Let's see. I'm looking for anybody else that might be waving their hand here if they want a mic opened up. I think maybe some of our guests are kind of fooled into thinking, well, they can lurk in a webinar and not have to say anything, but all of a sudden, you know, they might get a chance to talk to somebody outside the house, but still in 2 dimensions. Okay, great. Well,
Bill, I'm curious, how do you see the names of people and we don't?
So I guess that's what the organizer, well, so, but panelists, a couple of you have mentioned that you've been seeing this, let's grow. So John, there's a roll up in the GoToWebinar interface that's called attendees.
Yeah.
And it's up to 20, sorry, it's up to 15. That's it. I almost did what John did. Yep.
Yeah, it has the numbers, but just not the names.
Oh, okay.
Can you open it up though? Look at the arrow to the left of it and click it.
Oh yeah, I can see all of us. Yeah. I just can't see anybody else.
So there's 2 tabs there. There's one that says staff and one that says attendees. Click the attendees tab.
I don't have an attendees tab.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I don't either.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You must be special.
Oh, yeah, get that all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, now before we get going here, I'm just going to make John Luff an organizer, which means he can hang up the call. So be careful. Don't hit that orange button at the top. Now, as an organizer, John, that tab may change, and maybe then you'll see the attendees as well as the staff.
Well, I completely changed, so I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Oh, your whole window's just totally rearranged. Okay.
Yeah.
Take me back.
Well, the only upside other than
I can see it.
Bill
Cool.
the next meetings will be in Zoom.
Right. And Zoom is a interface that more people are familiar with. So definitely. Okay, cool. Well, if we are ready to begin, because it looks like our ingest numbers have settled. And it's funny, as a company, you don't usually want to say how many people you have in the room, but as a group like we are, I think it's important. We have here 12 staff members of various capacities and experts and such, and then 16 attendees. So that's actually a pretty good turnout for a SMPTE Pittsburgh meeting, I think.
Hey, Bill, just one thing. I see
Yeah.
Dawn is listed as an attendee. Is that going to change her ability to speak?
Let's see, let me look in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
she-
was one
oh.
email for panelists and a different email for attendees.
Yeah, like in my email, I said, the attendees need to only use that panelist link. So Dawn, if you can hear me, you need to close your connection. And then you have to go into the panelist email that was sent separately. I think it was yesterday morning, 10 or 11 in the morning. Went out
Yeah,
that
and the system sent one later this afternoon.
Yeah.
as a reminder.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that confusion happens pretty often when people haven't used it for the first time. Okay, great.
Yeah, I got the one I used came at 5:30 p.m. for the
So
panelists.
perhaps we should wait for Dawn to jump in on the staff list just to make sure everything's working before we get rolling, right? If you guys are okay with that, team?
Those who are waiting in the waiting room know that the meeting is going to start or has started, or what are
hearing
they
us.
doing?
They're
I think
hearing
it has. I think it actually has started, and this is somewhat representative of the things the obstacles we've all had to overcome during this pandemic. And I mean, it couldn't be more descriptive than what we're facing right now. I can't see the paper, the names and it's an excellent way for us to illustrate the problems that we've all faced and how we've overcome them. So it's my 2 cents.
That's
Just
great.
imagine you're doing a television show with 60 people who all have to participate live via a medium like this.
And they're not technically inclined, so that's even more
200
challenging.
reporters for a media event.
So again, I don't see Dawn yet connected in the staff listing, unless I'm skipping past. Nope. So, I mean, her segment is later on. We could hope that she can connect, to that by then. Although we don't really want to kind of stop on the way there if it's not working. Let me just check.
Maybe we can coach her on the side as we get this rolling.
Yeah, I'm checking my email to see if there's a message. Nope. Yeah, so I'd say let's get it rolling, because I know our guests are all really interested in getting going. So, but it's nice to see a lot of familiar names out here. Okay, so kind of here we go. Let's get this rolling. Let's get this show on the road. Whoa, that almost was a problem. Okay, we're back. Must be some snow on the dish or something. Welcome everybody to SMPTE Pittsburgh's inaugural 2021 kickoff event and restart of the pre-COVID shutdown. And even better than that, we got a really cool panel session coming up. There's a lot going on tonight. We think we'll be done by midnight. If not, the catering will bring breakfast. So, we as a group here haven't done this before exactly in this format. So, this will be just like any award show you have ever seen. Something will go wrong. Briefly, look at these. Where we've been only recently, Mitsubishi back in late 2019, where they build the Diamond Vision screens up in, was it Cranberry? Cranberry, yeah.
Yeah, it's Cranberry.
And Sony was doing a presentation at WXPI. Otto's always been a great host there in the lower left. And on the right, yet another great presentation that NEP has the room to host. And that was the ST2110 video over IP event, where I recall Lavo's CTO actually hopped on a plane and crossed the Atlantic just to sit in that chair for a while, which was really cool. We draw great talent here, and we've got it here again with us tonight. So this is the stuff we've been missing, and now it's back. So here we go. This is the session is called Media Production Through the Lens of a Pandemic. The lens is, yes, a play on words. A panelist, first, we have 2 panel sessions going on, and then we'll have an open roundtable. All 3 of those are going to have Q&As at the end, and all 3 of those, you, the attendees, will be able to submit your questions through the question and answer window within the GoToWebinar interface. I'm Bill Bennett. I'm a section manager. I was one of the early founding section managers back in 2014, and then actually just moved back to Pittsburgh, and then was elected by the board to fill an emergency spot. So I'm grateful to be a manager again. And I work for a company called Enco Systems that makes software, stuff like that, out of Michigan. The listing for this evening is kind of will be this order, right? We're doing our kickoff right now, and then John Humphrey's got a few prepared remarks and introductions that he'd like to make. And then George Hoover has kind of been the segment producer, curating the first topic, which is live national television production during a pandemic. And who better in this town, and who better on the planet to call, who do so many live national broadcasts than NEP Group. So we're joined by two of their executives, and they have a lot of nice slides that we saw last night during rehearsal. It's going to be fun. And then a Q&A for them from everyone. And then a panel discussion coming up next. That'll be curated or segment produced by John Luff. And that's going to be with a local perspective, local film and video production through the pandemic. And the experts there are going to have a couple perspectives of specifically from the Pgh Film Office and what they had to do and have been doing, and also an expert on the kind of the healthcare and COVID-19 protocols that have been put in effect. And that they have been having to deal with. So this is going to be some fascinating stuff. And by the way, okay, well, anyway, Q&A after that, and then that whole roundtable Q&A, which I hope is really neat, because I'd love to see the experts ask the experts their things and their questions. That might be neat. Then finally, John will have some closing remarks, and I'll have a little bit about our social media, and then we're done. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to hand it to John Humphrey. The way we're doing it is we're kind of closing our microphones and cameras unless we're actively engaged. So I'm going to do that. And then also at a certain point, I'll be showing some videos and then switching my desktop controls so Glenn can get in there. So John, it is all yours, my friend.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. I'd like to thank Bill for being the manager for the section, as well as being the moderator tonight. Bill's done a great job. This is our first event in, I don't know, almost a year. Like most of you, we sort of shut down waiting for this to be over quickly, and it wasn't. So we fired things back up again, thanks to Spike Jones, the previous chairman for the section, for his hard work getting things going again. And I have taken over as section chair. Greg Abel, who is also here, is unable to make it tonight, is with Sony. He's the secretary treasurer. The managers are Bill Bennett, who's also the webmaster, Ed Fraticelli, who does communications, Kara Fries, Mike Janaz from TechSolve, John Luff, retired, and Dan Turk from the NEP group. That's the organization, the managers, and there's Dan and John. Everybody's waving. Thank you. I am really thrilled to be the chair for the section, and more importantly, to get things going again. It has been a little bit of a struggle. Leave it to engineers to have trouble with production, and this has been no exception. But I think we've pulled it together pretty well tonight. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you will attend future meetings, which will be virtual for the time being. So without further ado, I would like to toss it over to George Hoover, one of the founders of the SMPTE section in Pittsburgh. George?
Thanks, John. As Bill mentioned, who better than to have talk about the state of national and worldwide production in the pandemic than NEP Group? A lot of people think about NEP as just a US sports truck company, but there really is so much more. So have a look at this short clip. And Bill, roll it. So joining us tonight to discuss the impact of pandemic on their operations and the industry overall is Glen Levine, President of US Broadcast Services, and Dan Levine, who's Chief Engineer. So Glen,
Dan Turk,
take
Dan
it away.
Turk, he's not my brother.
Dan Turk, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, George. Thanks for having us. Are you going to share your screen? I need to share a screen. Bill, that was a great video, George. It was it's pretty enlightening when I look at that and I think back a year ago and I think about how we were going at 120 miles an hour, 365 days a year, and we went to 0 overnight. I was going to share a slide presentation. Bill, I don't know if you can share that or not.
Yeah, it should. I did select you on it. Do you have a button there that you need to
I don't see it.
look?
There it is. I got it.
Hit it again. Okay, cool.
See, this worked in rehearsal.
It always does.
I just want to make sure everybody, you see my screen?
It's white at the moment, but full screen of white.
I see your mouse.
And the slide deck worked at rehearsal too. There we go. Looks good. 5 by 5.
All right, so George, thanks for sharing that video. That definitely shows what NEP is all about. I think most importantly, certainly for this group, when you look at NEP at a glance and at a high level, we are headquarters in the US, but most importantly in Pittsburgh. So that's, the home office is in Pittsburgh. That's where the company started. Currently, we're in 24 countries. We have over 4,000 employees. Half of them are engineers, close to 200 mobile units / OB vans, 80 fly packs, studios, LED lights, post-production, software developers, virtually all over the world. So about a year ago, in March, the COVID hit. These are some of the headlines that I'm sure a lot of you remember. I know I remember when the NBA shut down because I knew that it was only going to be the beginning and it was going to continue. I think Dan was there with me. We were at the Players Championship. We spent the week setting up. We did one day of golf and then they shut down, and then it basically spiraled from there. Everything canceled. I'm sure this group watched and waited, wondering whether NAB was going to happen or not, and then ultimately it canceled. So how did we deal with it? I mean, this was some really, really difficult times, and we had to look overall at when this was going to end, which of course nobody had any idea, and how were we going to get through this. So the first month, we waited it out. We just waited to see what was going to happen. And then we looked out for what was best for our employees, and we started furloughing employees because government started subsidizing, which was extremely helpful. Probably out of the mobile units staff, there's probably 2/3 of them are field staff. So basically everybody was sitting home. We held all of our spending. We froze all of our capital with the manufacturers. They weren't real happy about that, but we wanted to look at, how can we essentially come out of this hole on the other side. We decided we should go back and we should look at what can we do during this time to be proactive, to get things done. So I remember talking to Dan about, let's try and get some things done in the shop. Let's look at the systems integration group and continue to build our mobile units. So when all this is over, there's things that we can there's always that list of things that you just don't have the time to do. So let's take this time and use it wisely. And to be honest, that was challenging because things were shutting down, COVID cases were coming up, and the offices were basically being closed. So the first couple months was extremely challenging, but we did our best, and we feel we did a good job to communicate with our staff. Although 2/3 of the staff was furloughed, the folks that were left, it felt like we went from 3 weeks of time stood still because nothing was going on to all of a sudden we were back at 120 miles an hour. But the reality is there was no television happening. So what were we doing? We were preparing. So as we were preparing to return to work, we looked at things, safety, testing. These are things that we didn't even know about. Safety was totally different. It wasn't safety, OSHA safety that we're all familiar with. We didn't even know what testing was. And then safety technology was all new to us. And the new workflows, well, those were things that I think we were all thinking about, but nobody really had the time to do because we were busy doing other things. So one of our initial safety goals was our people. How do we get these folks back working in the middle of a pandemic? How do we make sure that they're safe, and they feel safe? And I'll do a quick shout out to Mike Davis from the SVG group and Clean Freaks. He started this Clean Freaks initiative early on in the pandemic that I was a part of when it was probably 10 people, and now it's probably up to about 90. And it was a very, very good collaborative effort across the entire industry that allowed the vendors, our competition, the clients, the networks, we're all collectively trying to figure out, what is it we're going to do to get back to work. So out of that, we wrote a lot of different protocols. We had hoped when we started that everybody would agree and protocols would be the same across all the networks. That was far from the truth. That never happened. So everybody was a little different, but everybody's ultimate goal was basically to be safe. As far as response, as we ran into problems where people were tested positive, we had to figure out ways to essentially clean areas, make sure that everybody was comfortable going back into that work environment. So if you think about, the inside of a mobile unit, if somebody tests positive, there's a virus in there. So we need to clean it. So we had cleaning crews on site. We did probably every 2 or 3 hours, we had folks go through and just wipe all the touch surfaces. Then there was the technology around trying to make things safe. And I can honestly say that I knew very little about bipolar ionization a year ago, and learned an awful lot in about 3 days, reading up and getting demos, and learned that essentially bipolar ionization doesn't actually kill the virus, it deactivates it and neutralizes it. But these are some of the technologies that we looked at, and we went ahead and we put filters in our mobile units. We put bipolar ionization systems in all of our mobile units. We ramped up our field shops with, UV, we called them the UV fridge, where essentially you could put headsets and controllers in there to clean things. We had them in our field shops. We used wands to make sure that the cases were sanitized before they went into a television compound. So there was an enormous amount of work going into just preparing for this. Adapting our mobile units with flexible plexiglass dividers, because when I say flexible, we had to move them around because we had no idea the network protocols and who was going to be allowed in what room and how many folks were going to be allowed in any given space. So we built hundreds of them, and we just had them on standby. So when the truck started to go out, we would send them out. Social distancing started to grow as we started to go back, and we were pulling mobile units, as George used to call it, out of the boneyard to get them out on site, just to have additional space and then adapt remote operator positions within them.
In the industry, as you couldn't find clean Lysol wipes, you couldn't find a headset to save your life from any manufacturer. Everybody wanted their own headset as one of the things.
Probably one of our toughest challenges was staffing. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we're dealing with people's lives. It was a little bit of a war zone. We're sending people into pretty tough, unpredictable situations. In the what we refer to now, and it seems it's only been a year, but with the early days of COVID, we had folks coming back, and PBR was the first group to come back, and I think they had everybody in the compound that got tested. You weren't allowed to leave the compound, and essentially you had to sleep in a trailer. So as we started sending people out, we had to go and we had to ask them essentially, are they comfortable going into this environment? Are they willing to go into a bubble for 50 or 60 days? And then events were canceling, so things were changing on a regular basis. And then everybody started testing. And in the early days, it was actually easier than it was in the fall, because the protocols were so stringent. The CBS Golf was great at testing. You got a test sent to your house. You were tested before you showed up at the compound. You were tested when you got there. So there was some level of comfort, although everybody followed protocols because everybody really wanted to work. And the freelancers in our industry took a tremendous hit because there was no work. So there was a huge effort on collectively across the whole industry for folks to want to do the right thing in order to make this successful. Then there were the reminders. So as we got into the fall, things started to, I don't want to say loosen up, but things started to change because we started doing more events. The NFL came back. They were not living in bubbles where it was totally isolated. People were moving around a little bit more. And we ran into the challenges of contact tracing. So somebody would test positive, and I would get a call on Sunday night, and I would be told that one of my drivers tested positive. And by the way, that driver had breakfast with the 3 other drivers. And can you get the 4 drivers in to get these 2 mobile units across the country in the next 2 days? We had engineers that were either tested positive or in close contact that would be put into a hotel and actually have to program into the telnet into the router to basically program the show. We were doing things with Zoom and FaceTime as people were remoted just to get shows on the air. But getting people to not be complacent was a big challenge. So there was signage everywhere on our mobile units, in our mobile units, protocol from the networks. So as the industry started to come back, the sports world came back. As I said, PBR was the first to come back, and it was a very, very tight bubble. The ESPN boxing MGM bubble was probably one of the second. CBS Golf, as I pointed out, really went out and they created the red team and the blue team, and they did 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And I think the first week they chartered a flight to move people. So it was, how do we keep these people really isolated? On the entertainment side, the WWE never stopped because they're the WWE, but they did stop traveling. So they moved they actually bought out a venue and they just stayed in that venue and they were testing employees every other day. I mean, there's folks that I know that I work with that were tested hundreds of times throughout this past year. All of the entertainment during that time, BET Awards, the VMAs, the live events for the 4th of July, Capitol, those were all done virtual, which Dan's going to talk a little bit about the technology that we used. So as we adapted from a personnel standpoint, testing, safety, we also adapted technology. One of the cool things that happened during this pandemic was NEP as a company came together. It's difficult to see everybody. We'd see a lot of our coworkers at IBC and NAB. We'd have conference calls with certain clients. But since folks had time on their hands, Teams was everybody's new favorite best friend, which nobody wants to deal with anymore. Broadcast services, media solutions, and live events really came together. And out of that, we came up with a lot of very cool technologies that were basically designed and out there to adapt. I'm going to let Dan run through some of the technologies that he was intimately involved with getting up and running.
Yeah, one of the important pieces that came with the CBS Golf especially was they spent a lot of time on what happens if. So a lot of these, we had engineers that were quarantined in hotels waiting. We had contingency plans in places like the DC Hub, which was a facility we built out in DC, right next to the Eurovision guys, and kind of partnered with them for connectivity. And from this, we were able to offer remote control from our trucks for production staff, for editing, for commentary, live ingest, pushing clips back and forth, and it really became a tool that was a kind of pipe dream that we all were working towards, but never would have happened in March. So we actually kind of in a last minute took a fly pack, installed it, and got it going in the March and April, and we're able to offer it to clients and help really expand the growth, but also be able to have staff that are in a city and not traveling to be able to help with any of the productions. Another thing we offered that we kind of brought over from the Netherlands and used the DC Hub to really host it was virtualized editing. So we were using all the trucks. We have VPN built back to Pittsburgh. It was always for our support. We kind of looked at it. We already had the connectivity. Like from my desk here, I can get into any of the trucks for support and problems and solve things. So we said, how can we use this to help our clients and to help production move forward? And so we started offering VPN connectivity to people's homes, to laptops, to this that were very secure and very routed only to certain networks, and a process to get on and off. And through that, we're able to offer cloud-based production services, utilizing a lot of PCUIP and kind of today's technologies, where if you have footage and the actual editors, whether it's Premiere, Media Composer on site, you can basically remote your screen to that. So the clicks and the moves was fast, the editing, all the video was local for them. And then from that, basically a low res proxy was what you would see, and you could create the high end on the end. And this backed up a lot of what we have done in certain regions, but really never brought to the globe. So it really was a great collaboration with the Netherlands guys and the UK and the US and Australia. And then remote commentary, this was the rest of the CBS. So we had a lot of the CBS New York, and then all over the place, you had what happens if an announcer tests positive. Now we have no announcer for the game. So for every CBS golf event, we had 3 announcers in their home ready to go, connected directly to the truck. using, so this is just public internet VPN, nothing fancy, nothing special. It was not a dedicated service. It was the best you could get in people's houses, which was always a risk because one thing we used this for was people's court. The judge could not travel to New York, so we built a whole set in her garage that looked just like New York. And we had these kits streaming and working for most of July, August, September 1st, when all the kids started going back to school. We had a lot of problems. So it was kind of the dangers of the public internet and just using that. It can be great. It can also be painful. So we learned a lot through that. We had pretty much all of the A-level NFL, announcers from their home, from a studio nearby, so they don't have to travel to site. Even, a good example was for CBS. Right before the Super Bowl, they wanted Jim Nantz to do a golf show, but didn't want to take the risk of he could be exposed. So he did it from his house, and then he went straight to Super Bowl. So a lot of this was, all related to COVID issues, but also how do you protect your assets? How do you guarantee you're going to make air? How do you cover if and when something happens? And we're able to really kind of bring, a lot of the tools that the guys were used to in their home all the way, to their home from what they had on site.
My opinion of this is this was Dan's favorite. This kept Dan very busy.
Very busy. We really, and that's funny, but NEP really did not do a whole lot of encoding in the US because that normally is brought in by the network and because it's dealt with to the broadcast center. So we learned a ton about that stuff in a quick time and kept us busy. And also, so with that, kind of side by side with that was the full cloud production, where we were able to spin up AWS, use a lot of existing pieces and parts, and be able to do a small production in the cloud, be able to remote operators and kind of really try to give them the feel of just like they were in the truck and had their, you kind of see that picture, that is the red, blue, gold, silver, that's an EVS multi-viewer, just like they would see in the truck. We had the remote D, all the panels that they're normally used to seeing was there in front of them. Obviously you had the kitchen, or on the kitchen. It's funny seeing some of the pictures of the setups, and it's literally someone's kitchen table with their TV behind it, and everyone got creative because everyone wanted to work. And then also the other side of this was from our live event side, that completely died also, and really still is on the way back. But how do you do a live event with shipping stuff to people's houses and have virtual audiences? And the picture there in the bottom with the two little light panels, that was a kit we built up that we sent to people's houses for NFL draft, and that kind of, where you had people that were waiting to go, and there were all these different levels, and some people had a small web camera, some people had a big camera with remote control, and building up kits. I think we've spent a fortune with SKB making kits and sending them to everyone's house. So that was another fun adventure that was a little bit more than just remote kits, but a whole production it turned into. And with that came the NEP home studio, which kind of we offered multi options, which one was a studio in a box with a little screen, lights on it, and from a web interface we could control all of the pan, tilt, zoom, lights on and off. As you see Zoom things and you see things like windows behind you when you're doing a live show and the sun is setting, and all the things that a video guy would normally use an RCP and fix, you had to deal with that kind of the hard way through a web page. So went from big setups to all in a box to, it's going to be someone's webcam, kind of a Zoom type. So it really was working with clients and figuring out what the budget, where we wanted to be, what was the guest, how many guests, that was a big part of it. So that was another fun adventure that we're still using today. And with our CT guys, which are live events, we kind of built up a studio in Nashville where basically we use AR that really is based on more of gaming technology than traditional broadcast. So you're able to get details and graphics like the games, which is actually way better, using NVIDIA cards and GUI and graphical engines, and not a Chiron or a normal kind of broadcast stuff. And with that, we had, tons, as Glenn said earlier, miles and miles of screens. So we built screens on all 4 sides, able to give them the opportunity to remote in via a home kit or actually come and build a whole audience, make it feel like you were there. We did a lot of corporate events that, for the big A-level companies that, they did a Zoom call, they kind of hated it, wanted more production value, wanted to feel like it was, actually, you were there in front of them like they're used to doing. So that's been a great success with cloud production and also studios kind of across the country. We had kind of a couple of these kind of pop-up AR studios where we used our screens and able to really give a feel like you were there. And that goes along with this virtual events where we were able to kind of use the screens that we have that normally you see stands and seats, and where that is now there's a wall of screens and bringing thousands of people in, as you see on the WWE show there, able to be part of it. How do you engage the audience, have a virtual audience? We've done virtual press conferences where it's hundreds of people. It really becomes the challenge from the production team is how do you get back to where we were? How do you engage people? We don't want to just have a boring Zoom call that everyone falls asleep. We want to make it so like on the WWE, these are all live people calling in and they can chat and do things, and their picture comes up and you kind of win a contest to get on at each show. And really, how do you engage your audience again? When you can't go to site and you can't go sit in the seats, how do you engage them? How do you keep them caring? How do you keep yourself relevant? That was the challenge, and I believe we're able really to help a lot of different customers, use the technology and kind of bring it back as close as we could to live.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, as you can see, there was a lot of innovation, a lot of collaboration, and we tried to meet the needs of the customer, give them ideas, and give them the ability to put on as best production as they could under the circumstances. So, here we are a year later, is the business back to normal? It's certainly not back to normal. There's a long way to go. And, although we are doing very well in the US, when I look at NEP, half of our business, a good portion of our business is live events, rock and roll concerts, screens, so mass gatherings. So even though we're doing a portion of that with, some of this the virtual world, it's certainly far from back. We have plans. I'm sure everybody's read in the press, the Olympics is happening, but, we don't know what's going to happen in Japan. So, it's like that in different countries, different geographies. But, in the US, we certainly had a good first quarter. We're back in large television compounds. I'm sure those of you watched a lot of the shows that were on the air. We have a lot of virtual workflows are not going away, and we are continuing to use them. And I don't think they're ever going to go away. I think as it gets back to normal, it's going to become a combination of what worked really well, how do we make it better, and then how do we save? How do we save money? There's been a lot of savings in travel over the course of the last year. So I just have a quick clip that I thought was cool. This is from the Masters, and I'm going to run.
So there's not audio, but I'll give you a little. There were 53 trailers all lined up on a brand new state-of-the-art with miles and miles of fiber. They actually moved the entire compound across the street, and all that building and all of this was really here just for broadcast. It really is the world class, unlike anywhere else in the world. The building to the right there is all the interconnect building with every fiber going to every course, every hole. And there were 53 trailers at the height.
And last year at this time, they canceled the Masters.
Yeah. So we were all happy to be there, happy to do whatever we had to do to be there. All brand new for this year.
I guess the benefit of an event like this is you don't have to look too hard for certain type of trucks and equipment and people because there's some availability at
Exactly.
unfortunately.
Well, thank you. Thanks
Guys,
for allowing us to share our crazy year with the group.
that is a great, crazy share to see, and just the timing, the evolution, the creativity, the engineering, the ingeniousness behind it has just got to be something you're really proud of.
We are. It was a true team effort on everybody that works at NEP's part.
Indeed, and these are things you're going to keep learning, like Dan said. I mean, all the articles I've read over the last year, and we've known that when I work for a manufacturer, we like to make stuff that helps people virtualize, but they're like, we're not ready yet. Well, we'll get to it eventually. Okay, good to know you're there. And all of a sudden they need it right away. The phone rings off the hook because they need it now, literally. So it's nice to be on the technology side when you can get to that and make that thing for the content creator pretty quickly. And they realize, wow, we really can do this.
In the US, to a real virtualizing, you're not going to site was a couple years away, and this took it to, can we do it tomorrow?
Yes.
On the manufacturer side, it was, can I get all these tomorrow? They're like, you do realize it's COVID, right?
And as a good vendor, of course, our answer was, of course we can, because we never say no.
No, John Humphrey is your curator. So, John, if you want to come back, there we go. Awesome, cool. And everybody, like we alluded to before Q&A, it's not from the managers, it's all of you. So we've got a couple of comments that have been posted here, but they're not really questions. I will say, because it's a nice reference. Tom Casey is putting out, let's see, okay, good, got another post. He says, well, the pandemic did not hit us as far as communicating, since they've been using Zoom for years. It was a client that had to go through certain stages of pausing. But Tom has been using Zoom for years in his remote work with his video related customers, and loves it. So it's interesting how certain smaller manufacturers are kind of in that virtual space already, just because that fits their bill.
It's kind of like what we saw from a lot of other countries where the budgets are cut and they couldn't do an all on site, had to really go to this model a couple of years ago, where the US, the budgets were still big enough where they wanted everybody on site. So that's kind of, you say it fast forwarded us to, okay, now we can't. So
Right.
What are we going to do?
Right.
Also, the level of expectations of quality, changed significantly from our production teams. I mean, there's various levels of expectation and quality based on your budget and the size of your show and profile. And, those of us that have been, in our end of the business know that there was no tolerance for error of any kind. And now that's changed. Now, I believe that, because I've been asked this question a number of times as it relates to, will people continue to work from home? Well, during the home, when people working from home, we had somebody in Seattle working and the power went out of the house. We've had bad internet connections. I mean, that at some level is tolerated and was expected during this. But post-pandemic, I don't see that level, but there are technological ways to have remote operators that we're going to start to see, because it saves travel and it changes the quality of people's lives.
Right.
Glenn, that was exactly one of the questions I wanted to ask, is what do you think will stick? Like, clearly things were compromises along the way, but some things are probably saying, this wasn't too bad. What do you think will stick?
I think there's going to be a level of certain folks on certain productions that really don't need to be on site. I mean, they never leave their room. A graphics operator is in their, in their corner. The producer doesn't necessarily have to sit with them because they're used to talking to them. And once it's rock solid, they can be in a broadcast center somewhere. I mean, example, we have 3 local Pittsburgh operators, freelancers, working in our 2 beta facility for NASCAR for the whole season. And it's seamless to them. And they go home at night and they bring their lunch, and, so that we've changed their quality of life, and it's working from the production standpoint. So as long as it's transparent and seamless, I mean, when I look at what we're doing in Australia, we have the hub and spoke concept, and essentially it's, the hub in Sydney, there's one in Andrews, there's control rooms, and they don't fly the crew from Sydney to Melbourne to do a show. it's all networked together and it's transparent. They have POV cameras so they can see each other. And it took, when you talk to our folks from Australia, it took time for that level of acceptance pre-pandemic for adoption.
Right.
I think now that we've been through this, it's going to be adopted a lot easier. So I think, Spike, to answer your question, things that are really rock solid where people can change their quality of lives and production teams can actually save some cost. I mean, think about the travel cost to just travel 3 people for an entire year on a NASCAR package. That's savings.
Right. Yeah. Big time. Thanks.
Well, I think REMI had the connotation that it was low end, but it sounds like the pandemic forced the high end to do more REMI style. And I guess the question that I have is, when this is all over, are you going to be better off because of all the things you were forced to do?
We are going to be different. Things are going to change. We have a roadmap of doing more centralized production, adopting some of the things that are in different geographies. The US is complicated because of connectivity, but as the country gets better connected with telcos and networks where we can have those rock solid connections, I think we're going to find that we're going to have a combination of those big Sunday night football trucks are still going to be out there. They're going to want them. The production teams are going to be on sites high profile, but they may decide that a year from now, they don't have the graphics operators, and 3 or 4 years from now, maybe their EVS operators are working in an NEP broadcast center somewhere near their home or in the network's facility. So I think we're going to start to see those things shift over time. I think the lower budget events we'll start to see more of, where you'll just have capture vans out on site, which is similar to what we're doing in Australia. So I believe it's going to become a combination over time, and how things are connected and the quality of those networks in the US is going to be important, because we're seeing a lot of this in the Netherlands and Australia, but it's a different type of transmission and telcos connecting all this.
Yeah, and the risk, so connecting to on a point-to-point dedicated service is a lot better than over public internet VPNs, which is kind of what we were doing to people's houses and things like that. I think a lot of that will go away, but going to a broadcast center, to a hub, to a spoke, NEP building. I mean, one of the things we're doing now for Turner is we have 12 people across 3 NBA games where we remote the truck via an AT&T network to Atlanta. So 12 people came out of the truck and are now staying in Atlanta. So
yeah, I think
that type of thing is safer. Go ahead.
I think it's important to note that it's not a one solution for everything. This has become an a la carte menu of options. Do I want graphics people to work in Bristol? Do I want replay guys to work at home? Where's the director going to be? Where's the announcer going to be? You can separate everybody in any combination you want, just what works for you.
Yeah, at some point, I mean, we hope to offer up just that, anybody, anywhere, because that's, that's going to be, because if you think about the freelance population, they're all over the country. And if you have really good operators and they live in a geography where they can work in a broadcast center, a lot of that, for those of us that have been traveling all our career, maybe if we look back and say, well, I would like to travel a little bit less, but it's been proven in some of our other geographies that folks that were enjoying the travel piece have come back and said, wow, my quality of life has actually changed. So that's something that I think maybe they're not thinking of now, but when it happens, they'll start to enjoy it.
Well, it was interesting for the Democratic National Convention that the overall coverage was directed by Glenn Weiss out of his Brooklyn apartment. Because they wanted to protect him from possibly getting ill during this whole thing or not being able to do his next show. So you guys set up a complete control room, no video there in terms of active switching, but a monitor wall, intercoms, routers, all the things he would normally have at his position worked great.
And all went through BM here in Pittsburgh and back out.
Yeah. And he's the lead guy of the whole show. So
when do you guys build a major NEP production hub here in Pittsburgh and move that hub mindset over to here?
He stole the lab from us for the Fox
Oh,
play.
so that's
Well,
already.
one of the interesting questions, Bill, in this discussion in every geography is, where is your greatest pool of freelancers and where's your greatest connectivity availability? You know, you can
Yeah.
have great connectivity in Huntsville, Alabama, but
No
if there's no
staff.
operators there
Nope.
and you have to put them in an airplane and fly them to Huntsville, might as well go to site.
Yeah. And if we have good enough data in Pittsburgh, which we seem to do we have enough creatives that want to stay here? You know, is there enough for them to do to enjoy life? You know, when they're not shooting or editing or color grading or what have you. But yeah, it seems more than ever, because everything is digital, it is just data. And so if you can have trusted pipes to get it there, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
Mr. Luff has a question.
Yeah, and I'm really curious, Glenn, what the feedback from some of your clients, the Oscars would be the one that's closest in my mind right now, about the not only the technical effects, but the fact that the production had to radically change to suit the social distancing requirements that we're all facing right now. And I wonder if some of those productions are going to return back to the original style that they were in for so many years, or if we're going to see production design completely change as time goes on.
I can't actually speak to the Oscars because I haven't gotten any download from that, but, and this is just my opinion based on feedback from earlier award shows, is they're itching to get back to the way they used to do it. They like to be on site. You know, I mean, you know that, you know, for even for rehearsals, they're in the presence of the talent. There's that level of energy that they like. I think that if we can help them technically on, you know, redundancy, and even for us, some of the things that might not be on site becomes a little bit of a utilization for us. If they're not in a truck and they're not driving around the country and we can connect them to a network, we could use them for that show and then use them a day later for something else. From a client standpoint, I feel like they're going to want to get back to as close to the way they were for those type shows.
Makes sense.
They like that.
When can we do a normal show?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
I noticed the virtual backgrounds you were doing with the LED walls. I think in Nashville, Dan. I mean,
Yep,
that had a lot of feeling of course, the volume that ILM built for the Mandalorian, and I think you guys actually rented the LED walls through one of your divisions, right? So, I mean, did any of those folks? I mean, did you get to play with anything like a reality engine with that, or is it fairly simple?
No, we're doing a whole, we call them the XR stages, which are kind of the CT group is really the ones who develop all that and do it, that are basically what do you want, you know, complete virtual set. We even had people from home with the home kits we sent them, which included a green screen, and basically you would import them into the XR stages. You know, one of the options that was kind of the more money obviously was doing a pop-up XR stage, which would be LED walls, and having one person maybe live and then other people you could bring in virtually. So it would be a home kit sent to their house. They'd set it up, we'd check them in, and then what was presented out, they were standing right beside the other person like they were standing.
That's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
Using that technology, a lot of it, like I was saying, it's really based on a lot of the gaming guys, and that's kind of where that all came from. And how do you bring that into the production?
Yeah, and there'll be more and more of that too, definitely, as they shoot the, you know, as they shoot through the lens. From what you read the Mandalorian, it's much easier quicker to produce stuff, really high quality stuff. So yeah, that's. Oh, we have a question from a human being outside of our group. Two of them, great. Okay, first one's from Carl. And then some of this we may have touched on, but how much of your operation likely to stay remote once we return to normal? It's kind of a broad question since so much of it is remote in certain ways always, but you know, if you want to kind of spin on that a little bit more.
I think the virtual, the way you were just talking about, like the Nashville virtual stages, I think we're going to continue to see those as a product where they're going to continue to be used because they allow you to do quick set changes and, you know, some of the stuff to stage extensions. So I see that as something that's going to stay. And then I do see a lot of these, you know, remote operators continuing to stay. You know, I don't know who, and it's going to be client by client, but like we talked about earlier, I can see how there's folks that are looking at cost savings and folks that just don't want to travel, key graphics operators that can work in Stanford at NBC. If we can tie them into a mobile unit, they're going to want to do that.
One of the things COVID brought is you had a lot of guys that were the A level that's traveled their entire lives that, oh, there's no way I would never want to travel. I want to stay home. But when they were forced to stay home, they kind of got used to it. Hey, this isn't as bad as I thought.
It does get cushy. Another question here. Aaliyah has a question, new to the industry. I'll read it verbatim. How can the new pool of freelancers have the opportunity of getting into the new system meaning I would think process and technology and relations, get into the new system in the production world? She is now a new PA, new to PA and in Aliquippa, and interested in how to try to access these new opportunities. Thanks for having me here, she says. She's glad to attend. So, you know, if you're new getting into this, yeah.
Start by sending a resume to NEP. That's a good way to start.
Very good start. Aliquippa's not far. Good, Leah, I hope that helps. Ask any further questions if you have them. Tom, he's jumping in. Mr. Casey, is there more call for immersive to present the event more like it would be? And that sounds like with the Nashville set, there is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, immersive, but also some of the, and this is probably more of a COVID, the immersive technology, whether it's Atmos and 4K and HDR, pretty much all went out the window. We just need to get TV on the air. So, I mean, an example was Masters, Super Bowl, all those things were done normal, 1080i, HD, no 4K, no HDR. It was more of, I mean, probably part of it is now you have a staff of nurses who are traveling around doing COVID tests every 2 days. You know, somewhat of a budgetary, you know, we got to spend our money on that to actually have the show versus doing 4K or HDR or any of the Atmos and that kind of immersive broadcast technology.
Yeah, priorities. You got to get on the air.
And you're right, that is priorities, and it's back to quality went down, priorities went down. But, you know, Dan brings up a point, the amount of money that went into testing, it had to be phenomenal because it was constant testing, medical staff on site, and this was for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of events and thousands of people.
I know Casey coming up. Oh, go ahead.
Every network had their own way. So there's always stories of, I was at a show and it was for NBC and I did my NBC test. But then while I'm doing my NBC test, I'm doing my CBS test up the other nostril. But I'm going there next. There was no like, hey, this is the test. If you take it, you're good. Everyone needed their own version of it.
Oh, man. Oh, man. And never the two shall meet. Oh, Jay is asking, do you think, I was going to say about COVID testing for the attendees. Again, one of our speakers coming up, Carrie LaRocco's got some nice pictures and experience being an on-site COVID protocol medical person on site for film production. So he's definitely going to have some perspectives there too. Jay is asking, do you think SRT technology will continue to have a big impact to all our workflows post-pandemic? I assume he means the transport SRT. So
yeah, I think I think it goes back to what stays away, what doesn't come back. Having a, you know, reliable and secure is a big part of it also. Encrypted video streams. One of the things that we really used SRT for was for the kind of normal, call it management people for the networks. So the, you know, vice presidents and guys that normally would go to site for big shows that were kind of trying to stay away because everyone has to have a seat and you got to be 6 feet apart and all the COVID tests and come 3 days early and deal with all of that, of being able to give them a portal with a link into the intercom so they can hear what's going on, as close to live as you can stream so they can see what's going on and really be part of it from home. So whether it's a remote employee, you know, remote operator staying home, or even just engaging the whole network of people that couldn't travel, that's not going away.
okay, cool. And we're also, by the way, trying to pay attention to time. I know that these topics could go on for a long time. But we have another set of folks to present, and then we have a roundtable still, and then comes the breakfast at midnight. We're done with there's no more questions feeding the hopper from the attendees. So I'd like to and thank George for curating this, these talented folks at NEP who we look to a lot for innovation here. And Glenn and Dan, thank you for all of your time and expertise putting the slides together. Hope you can stick around through the roundtable. I'm going to segue before we go to the next folks, and that's introduced by John. This is survey time. So we in the section manager level are very interested in providing for you the type of topic sessions, information sessions, networking events, what have you, that you want and expect. You elect us to our positions to serve you as section managers for SMPTE Pittsburgh. That means we need to know what you want. We think some things are, that matter are coming down to, ATS 3 and so on matter, but we don't know what's on your minds. So at the end of this event, there'll be a survey where you can answer up to 5 ideas. So you can't escape that. As soon as you close your window, it'll come up. You could also send them now through the question and answer form if you want to do that, or if you can't hang around. And so there's 2 ways to do that, and I'm afraid we might bug you with an email later also asking the same questions. So one of your answers may in fact be stop asking so many questions. So there's that, and but we appreciate it because we build this for you, and so thank you. The next panel discussion is really going to be, it's still talking film and video, but we're doing it mostly towards film and with an emphasis on something a lot smaller, and that is our local community. Something where people, more people in this virtual room watching tonight know these people who are speaking next personally, because this is going to be how film has been done in Pittsburgh over the last year. And what the Pgh Film Office has been having to deal with, from the calamity that kicked in to trying to organize through medical procedures and policies, safe ways to make film. And I know it's coming back, but Don's got a lot of answers on that. And Casey is again a location COVID coordinator with a lot of perspectives. And actually, he had some new photos to add. So as the NEP folks were presenting, I opened up the PowerPoint and threw his photos in there. And so Casey, all 9 photos are in there over 3 slides. They're not quite in the order you sent them, but I was just throwing them in there as fast as I could. So we can get to those whenever you're ready. And Dawn, I think, well, actually, I'm going to stop talking because it's John's turn. Okay, John, it's all yours.
Thanks, Bill. In addition to the tremendous issues that live television was presented with last year when this all began, of course, all the productions done both in Hollywood and cities around the world, including Pittsburgh, were deeply affected by the fact that, people were afraid, number one, and people were required by governments not to do the things that we were used to doing. So, of course, that impacted Pittsburgh, which has become one of many regional hubs for doing film and video production. And our first speaker today, or the next speaker this evening, is going to be Dawn Keezer. Dawn has been with, if I understand the math correctly, Dawn, 25 years you've been with the PFO?
26 in September.
Oh my gosh.
I started when I was 5, for those of you doing the math.
I have to say I was on the Pgh Film Office board for a while, and I have some perspective for just exactly how hard Dawn and the other people involved in the PFO work. Some of what they do ends up on the screen, and we have a short video that shows you some of the films that have been shot in Pittsburgh. Bill, could you roll that, please?
You bet. Stand by here. Here we go, everyone. Let me hit start on this. Enjoy.
Take it away, Dawn. Oop, mute.
What happened?
There you go.
Am I okay? Can you hear me? Okay. I never can decide if I should start with the trailer or end with the trailer, but I have to shout out Ed Fraticelli, your SMPTE board member. He creates that trailer for us. It would never be that good without him. So thank you, Ed, because it makes us look amazing.
We edited that originally years and years ago. I have to re-edit it every 2 years with the new films and the new figures, the facts and figures. So it's always a pleasure. So.
Well, I was looking at the numbers going, oh, we already updated those, but now we got to add Ma Rainey because of its nominations. The nice thing is we've been so busy, we've been able that we get to add work, but Ed makes that thing look amazing every year. So thank you. Well, hi, it's nice to see all of you tonight. Thanks for including us and thanks for letting me join. I'm only going to take a few minutes because I want to update you on what's going on with the film community in the region. And then I want Casey to have some time to tell you about how we're actually getting back to work in terms of safety protocols. But for those of you who don't know me or know the Film Office was established back in 1990, a long time ago. And we're essentially outside sales. We're the economic development agency that markets Southwestern Pennsylvania to the film industry. Yes, that's my dog. He has to make an appearance all the time. He weighs 85 pounds, so I try not to argue with him too much. As the video just showed you, we've had over 196 projects shot here since 1990, and we're closing in this year on the $2 billion mark in economic impact, which is the reason we're here. It's all about the new money coming to the region and hiring our local people, which we're really thrilled to have so many people who live in this industry, live in this area, work in this industry. We have 18,000 statewide. We're closing in on about 10,000 here just in our region. So we like seeing those numbers increase. The Film Office, we're essentially the one-stop shop for anyone who wants to film. And we keep using the word film, but it's running any kind of video, film, digital, however you want to refer it. But anyone who's creating something, we're the one-stop shop for them. We can walk them through how to shut down a road, how to close a bridge, how to hire crew, what sound stages are available, how you get to talk to NEP, all of those things, they come through our office. So we're more than happy to fulfill that role. We're huge. I have a full-time staff of 3. So you've got 1/3 of the big office here this year, right now, tonight. But we do it, we're small but mighty, and we're lean and mean, and we get a lot done, just the 3 of us. Also, thanks to Ed and his company PMI, we just successfully hosted our annual Oscar event, which is Lights, Glamour, Action. This year was our 21st annual Lights, Glamour, Action. It's really our life support. It's how the Film Office, which is a 501c3 organization, actually stays open each year. Ed created this amazing virtual event for us this year. And if you email me directly, and I know my email stuff will be there, we'll send you the link so you can watch it, because we aired it on Saturday night. It was a huge success and people had a really good time. We're hopeful, along with the Oscars, and I'm sure NEP, that we'll all be back live and in person for the event next February. But we did it virtual this year and it actually worked really well. In the old days, prior to film tax credits and film incentives, Pittsburgh and the Southwestern Pennsylvania region was lucky enough to get 1 movie a year, sometimes 2, but usually we get about 1. Since the inception of the successful Pennsylvania Film Tax Incentive Program, we're running between 5 to 7. One year we actually had 10 shows all in 1 year. What that has meant is our crews increased, the number of businesses that are serving this industry has increased, therefore the amount of money being spent in the region's increased, and we continue to grow the industry. The plan when we created this incentive program 15 years ago was to build a viable economic sector, and we're doing that, but there's more to do. Currently, your little quick 101 on the tax credit, we have a $70 million tax credit program. It's allocated on, you get basically a 25% tax credit on what you spend when you're filming and working in Pennsylvania. So basically they give us $1, we give them back 25 cents on every dollar they spent. There's a few other rules they have to follow, like 60% of their budget has to be spent in the Commonwealth on rentals and purchases from a Pennsylvania business. So we're constantly pushing them to hire Pennsylvania crew, use local Pennsylvania businesses in order to, A, they get more tax credits that way, but again, to continue to grow our industry. So We're at 70 million. We're currently in the process. This is the budget season. The new year starts in July. And Senator Camera Bartolotta, who's a Republican in charge of labor and industry, she's the chair. She's also sits on the Film Office board. She's pushing to increase that credit to 125 million this year. Given the $7.3 billion that Pennsylvania is receiving in terms of federal CARES funding, this is the most optimistic I've been in a number of years that we're actually going to get the increase. It's much needed. To you and I, 70 million sounds like a lot of money, but we essentially spend that money the first week in July. We allocate those tax credits that quickly. The program's oversubscribed, underfunded, and you'd see a lot more work here and a lot more work for all of you as well if those credits were increased. So I tell you all that just in case you know a legislator, talking to a legislator, want to send them a quick note and say, please increase the film tax credit, because it's really key to continuing to grow our business. I did want to let you know, just like NEP, we were running a million miles an hour too until March 13th, when Governor Wolf said, stop, we all got to go home. And we all went home. We were geared up for 2020 to be one of the busiest years in the film office and the film industry's history in Southwestern Pennsylvania. Most notable, American Rust, which is Jeff Daniels executive producing and starring for Showtime, a show we've been working on for 4 years, was set to go into principal photography on March 16th. March 13th, the governor said, everybody go home. Showtime went home. We all thought it was going to be a very brief stop. A full year later, I'm happy to report to you that American Rust was able to start production in March of 2021. Thankfully, the film office, the film industry, our film projects, our film crew, they're all back at work. We've been back at work since October. We started with Netflix, with a show called Archive, followed up with a second Netflix show called The Chair, topped that off with Rust. You may have read in the paper, we're going to do League of Their Own TV. That starts in May. And it was announced last night, thanks to Billy Porter announcing it to the world on Jimmy Kimmel, that he's coming in with his directorial debut called What If. So we're thrilled to have the industry back at work. The only reason it's working is because they're following every safety protocol. The unions got together and all agreed to what the safety protocols look like. And then they were smart enough to hire people like Casey and friends like him to really explain how they're able to do this and keep everyone safe. The statistics we're getting from the MPA is that we're having a less than 1% positivity rate on our crews, but it's because of the constant testing, the state-of-the-art COVID protocols they're following, and we're just happy to be back to work and have everybody else back to work and off unemployment, which is thrilling for everybody. I'm going to let Casey talk about what he wants to, and then we're both happy to take questions at the end. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Casey.
Hi. So I just first want to say thank you to Dawn. She's always doing what she needs to do, and she's never not done those things, and I appreciate everything that she's done forever. I've known the film office personally for a long time, and I help as much as I can, and everyone can. We need people to help. Everybody should jump in.
But Casey, tell them who you are, because we didn't introduce you very well, so you should tell them who you are.
My name's Keezer LaRocco. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 17 years, and in the time that I became a nurse, I discovered something called set medic, and I didn't know what that was until I was standing in an arena and they were shooting Warrior. And when you showed the clip, the first clip from Warrior was my first real show as a set medic. And then from then on, in that clip you showed, I did every single show. And to me, it brings a tear to my eye when I saw it, because that's like thousands of hours of my life. And when people are like, oh, what's a set medic? And I talk about it, I can't explain it in one sentence, but I've been doing it for so long that it became second nature for me to be on set with the shoot crew, doing health and safety, helping with first aid response, organizing with the crews in every department to help what's going on, from construction to rigging, all the way to stunts, and then on-site stuff on the day when we're shooting, anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a day during those days before COVID. And then I left the industry for a while, and when I came back to show the Sweet Girl, and right as Sweet Girl was happening, as a nurse and a set medic, everything shut down, and that was when my skills as a nurse became really relevant, working in med-surg in hospitals and being able to help people understand how to protect themselves right away. So I guess the best way to say it is when we started going back to work. What was it? March 13th is when we got shut down. I went back the end of April, and I went back to a Dick's Sporting Goods commercial with one camera person, one DP, and one gaffer / lighting guy, and we shot. And most of the lighting were balloons we put up in the ceiling in Dick's Sporting Goods, and we had like 10 crew. Then the next commercial was 20, 30, 40 until we got up to the numbers we're at now, where we can shoot with the crew. And I went from Casey medic, Casey nurse, to Casey COVID compliance officer. And when I got COVID compliance officer, I asked where my badge was, and no one wanted to give me a badge because it didn't really exist yet. And then I ended up taking all these World Health Organization classes, and then all of the mitigation classes that are available, which are all free. Anyone who wants to learn them, you just go to the WHO and look up COVID-19 compliance. Safe Sets International is another one that had a great run of a new program before we had any rules, before we had any kind of shots, before we had anything we could do to check people. We were checking temperatures, we were safe distancing, we were constantly wearing face shields. It was a sweaty, hot, disgusting summer to shoot, and teaching people how to wash their hands on a constant basis, removing craft service and learning how to do craft service, buying plexiglass like crazy and letting the grips fix it so we could use it, separating actors properly, all trying to make a budget. And just to give an example, at the point we're at now, which I've stepped up now from set medic to, like, the last show I did was Archive 81, and I was set medic for that for 18 weeks. And I'm now health safety supervisor on a current project. And that project, we're going to be doing upwards of 200 to 300 people a day, testing 3 days a week, sometimes more depending upon the numbers of Allegheny County, which the county itself and where we live have done an amazing job of keeping us informed. And when it comes to COVID numbers in our area, we've been super safe. And now we've been so safe that we're all getting vaccinated, and it's getting better and better as we're going along. The hard way to put it is when you're the person with the boots on the ground that has worked with these people for years and they turn to you for help in the way to protect them medically, I ended up being that person. And a lot of the crew on the IATSE side and a lot of the medics I work with, all of them were growing because they're all learning how to do it more and more. And the biggest part I can say is that the training of the medical professionals stepped up, and they've been helping us immensely. So when the white paper came out, which was the rules from the union and the Teamsters and the DGA and everyone, when those rules went in, we were able to move forward with a set of guidelines, and then they were able to do their budgets. And then when we got into the budgets, you find out now if you spend $1 million, 300,000 of that is going to be spent on COVID. And that's a big thing to ask of anyone. And it's hard enough to get your script turned into something. Now suddenly 30% of your budget is spent on COVID. We do see the end of the tunnel here. The new rules are coming and helping us. So I think that's basically what I do. And I could talk forever, and Dawn knows that. I don't want to because I trail off on things.
Where's your pictures?
Yeah, we can show the pictures. Yeah, some of the pictures I sent real quick, which I'm not technologically good. So you'll see here, the biggest thing everyone learned about right away is that center mask. That center mask was our first thing I had to tell everyone about because they disappeared very quickly. And if you see the N95 NIOSH, you will not find those anywhere anymore. They've been redone, and at first that was our biggest problem, was PPE using for the crew, and learning what these numbers meant. To guys that work in construction and stuff, it's a respirator mask, but to people in the medical field, it was to protect you from things like tuberculosis. And now suddenly we're dealing with it on another level. Our first commercial back where we actually had more than 60 people, that slide on the left, that's our lunch. That was how lunch was. Each person went in and picked it up, hand sanitized before they went in, fully covered head to toe, and then they walked out. On the right, you'll see those people standing, giving us a great example. We had to send to the production outside who watched virtually when we were shooting the commercial, how to keep everyone from being too close for lunch. That stage, we've used it many times. We did everything we could at the time to keep it going in a positive way. So go to the next slide. All right, now that is a 90-degree day. I'm standing in the front of a truck, and we are burning alive outside and trying to get air and drink water and deal with everything at the same time. And you can see that just right from shooting in the summer, the first thing we learned from the crew was dehydration was a massive problem. So dehydration with the crew and then keeping them good while wearing the full N95, just doing normal work. That's not even close to camera with where you have someone unmasked. That's just a simple day in a 90-degree weather day here in Pittsburgh where you're cooking. And it was hard to teach everyone to stay. And as the set medic, I was constantly telling the guys, you got to step away, you got to take a break, you got to get water. We'll go back in a second, which now has turned into every 3 hours we take a full mask break for the entire crew. And that being a standard with us has been wonderful. It gives everyone a chance to step away. And everyone that knows a camera person, you don't step away from that camera on the cart. It's your responsibility. And training these people new ways that they've been doing things forever to say, we got to step away and take a breath and go to our green zone has been part of the problem. Because changing people's ways of doing things they've been doing for 30 years has been very hard. The grips, they know when they hear the gaffer or they hear the DP say do something, they do it. And then suddenly they had to wait for other people to step out of the room or step out of the area to keep our compliance with people in the areas. Plus the airflows in the industry had to change. That picture on the right, you can see that light coming through a hole in the actual studio is you can see kind of the fog in the air. We had to go through all these trials to figure out, wearing all the PPE, what was acceptable as far as fog would go. And it was really hard to figure out with atmosphere. And that picture itself, we were not vaccinated or tested in that situation. It was just pure safety with the crew. The picture in the center is a fully customized live feed we used, and it was also used for a reality show. We paid to have this specialty Plex installed, and we were just getting into the world of testing, and that vehicle was used for the shoot. The cameras aren't mounted in it. This was another example of where I had to send to production in LA what we were doing to protect things. This particular vehicle was in Baltimore, or no, sorry, that was in Reno, and the weather as well was a problem. We were shooting on a farm, and just so you know, when you put Plex in a thing like that, and you open up the trunk to load gear in, like batteries and sound, when flies get in, they get stuck in there pretty good. So we had to try to get the flies out, and that was not fun for the shooting crew or the actors. So that's that, and then go to the next slide. And that's it.
And then we're happy to take any questions you might have.
Oh, there's more. So there's the roof shooting and
two more.
Taking temps, and we can answer questions, and you can keep flipping through them if you want.
This is good. Tell them what they're looking at. It's good.
So this is us shooting for Netflix. They came to me months in, and they wanted to shoot the continuation of a docuseries that they wanted to get some plate shots and some extra B-roll, and then we turned it into real stuff. And these guys hadn't shot anything, and we had a 8 to 10 person crew, and it was like I suddenly had to teach them everything. It was like being a nurse and teaching people that didn't step outside for 5 months were suddenly out in the public, and having them go through this was really hard for them. And then having people stop what they're doing in the morning. Like I'll tell you right now, if your call is 7 o'clock and you're not there at 6:30, and some guy in a red shirt comes up and stops you, takes your temperature, asks you if you're sick and all this, at first they were like, who are you? This is ridiculous, but everyone was scared. And then everyone started following protocols immensely. And we did have scares, but in the 18 commercials I did before I moved on to the bigger series, we had no exposures. We didn't have one positive case. And that was because we treated it like everyone could get everyone sick all the time. And it was scary, but as a nurse, I was used to it, and I was able to help people feel better as we went along.
I think that's the it for the slides there. So
yeah, so we can do questions if you want.
Yeah, looking at the question frame, because I know we've been running for an hour and a half, so that's kind of at the top end of our advertised window. And John, don't let me step on anything you may need to say, but at the moment, we don't have any questions from the crowd. Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. Casey,
yeah.
How do you see protocols adapting to vaccinations with vaccines coming out?
We just had this meeting yesterday and today. What the federal government's releasing, what the information's coming out that they're using, we are sticking to the white paper exactly by the letter until they release the new update for the white paper. We have to follow everything as a guideline as far as everything to keep ourselves moving forward in a positive way. So it's really hard to say, yes, they just said you can go outside and not wear masks, but I have to tell 100 crew members, we can't do that. We have to stick to the rules we did. In the future, I would love to see social distancing be a little better, 3 feet. I would love to see, you know, and these are hopes, these are not the rules. I would love to see us have the ability to have everyone who is vaccinated be able to have a little more freedom. And hopefully that freedom will be, if you're vaccinated, you no longer get swabbed. Personally, I've been swabbed 5 to 6 times a week since the beginning. When we got swabbed, I was getting swabbed. So my biggest thing will be, we don't need safety shields all the time. When we're almost there, walking and loading gear and doing work with heavy shields has been tough, and we're getting better. But until the white paper comes out, the return to work agreement gets updated, we're going to stick to those rules.
Okay, thank you.
So I imagine a question too is just with the sanitization, especially when hand sanitizer was thought to be very, very essential. Every control surface is a possible contact point, right, for contamination. Cameras have lots of knobs. I mean, grips grip a lot of, the hands touch so many places in a production set environment. Did you have to have somebody following around squirting and, you know, or Mylar covers over touchscreen panels that you keep ripping off and putting on new ones? Or
well, we did a lot of weird things. We would do stand-ins and plastic covers on beds, and then the cover would come off, and then the actor would go in. We did a 2-shot at a table where we had shoulder in person like this, and then shoulder in person, and the person closest to the camera was actually dressed mannequin over the shoulder. You couldn't see them. This was when they were faking the hands on, like, you know, all the shows. And that was the first, like, oh, how do we do this? And we said, can we mess a wig up and have it on the edge? And we did those things. Also, with the grips and the electrics in the camera department, my spiel was, we're all like-minded. Let's be safe. Stay within your wheelhouse. And just as you know, you don't stand in the doorway when grips are coming in and out. You keep, your gear is your gear. A cool conversation I had with guys who spent, you know, all these thousands of dollars is, how do you clean something that costs $150,000? And I know you're like, oh, well, they turned to me, Casey, how do we clean this? I said, you're asking me how to clean the dolly? I don't know. It's metal, right? No, it's not just metal.
Dude,
So,
and some of those solvents can destroy screens. You know, that means you can.
They were like, we're not putting anything on the dolly track. I said, okay. And then the guy with the Ghostbuster pack came to spray, and they were like, get away. And a bunch of grips and masks saying, don't come near the track. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a common thing in our world of how do you clean the trucks when it's people spraying. We had thousands of dollars of equipment, of router panels and things that are $8,000 or $10,000 a piece, that, you know, delaminated panels and buttons that are ruined, plastic that's corroded, and you kind of wonder, am I putting this on my hands? When you see what it does.
The cool thing we're at now is it is honestly like, we're seeing a negligible effect with the cleaning versus the exposures, and we're also seeing a negligible effect of doing temperatures all the time. At first, we were doing everything. Now we're realizing we're wasting all this time doing this, when the reality is it's up to people washing their hands and wearing the masks is 100% the best way, and keeping your distance.
It's
but
an airborne disease. Mostly. Yeah.
It costs a lot of money.
I'd like to, at this stage, if for those who want to hang on there, we've got through the core topics, but we still have time for Q&A if those who can stick around wish to. So kind of like when a meeting kind of fades out, some people leave like an hour later. I'd love to open this up to all the section managers, i.e. the panelists and their subject matter expert guests. You know, if you want, turn your mics and cameras back on and kind of discuss back and forth like we've already started doing here. And again, back to the audience who's watching all from their homes as well, that if you have any more questions that you can feed into the question box in the webinar interface, that'd be great, because we could use a couple there. John Luff.
Yeah, I'd be curious for both Dawn and Casey, how much resistance did you get from crew members to the pretty radical change in the way they do work?
Well, I'll just tell you, everyone was thrilled to go back to work. So on my end, you know, nobody was complaining. Everyone was thrilled to be back at work. Casey's on the front line. He's got a much better answer, I'm sure, of the many people who didn't want to wear their mask every day.
I'll be honest, everyone was happy to be back to work. That was first. But then 3 weeks into the show, when people were getting tired, it was, you know, we want to stay with the rules, and, you know, and we had our moments. And like I said, when you tell someone that's been doing something for 25 years, they suddenly have to change it. It's hard, but we all work together and we've had a positive outcome from it.
We call it COVID fatigue.
Yeah.
Mike, you got a question, Spike?
Well, I just keep telling people it's our first pandemic, and the next one we're going to be so much better.
Right.
So true. That's so true.
We've learned so much.
Casey, I'm curious if there's any things that the medical protocols demanded or perhaps restricted that you could not do, right? That there was a significant plan. We're going to do this kind of shot. It's going to have this kind of various things taking place, and you simply had to put the kibosh on it.
Yeah. There were many times where I was with, I'll say, rambunctious crews that were more of the reality television nature. And they were like, let's interview the building owner. And I was like, no. And they were like, what? I'm like, don't go. No. And like, they were like, how dare you tell me you're just I go, I'm just keeping you safe. And they, it was hard. And I've been in that spot many times, even as a safety person on set. I've had to walk over to like really important people, and I won't say names, and say, okay, you got to chill out and step away or you're going to get killed. This is really dangerous. And that's my role I've always had. But that was a situation where everyone wanted to be safe, and then suddenly people forget it. Like every now and then people would forget we're in COVID, and then I would have to be like, oh, and then it would be someone in sound or someone in camera would be like, hey, and I'd turn around and go, no, and I just calmly go talk to them and remind them, we're not drinking coffee and go to Starbucks. But I thank the world for the institution that created Q-Take, because we were able to social distance out in public with live feeds of video for all departments. So it's been wonderful.
Thanks.
That is cool. The and new technologies, questions that were kind of answered with the NEP folks. What new technologies that you had on the shelf that you jumped at and started using saved the day, and in fact now you're never going to let go no matter what happens. And that might dovetail into what procedures are never going to go back, because like television in a remote production environment, you're all on site. There's still things that you probably found that, wow, we should do this more often, no matter what. Any kind of, that's kind of a double-ended question there, but
yeah, the thing I want is no one got the flu. I mean, the flu wiped us out on many shows. I mean, I could tell you Monday somebody was sick, by Thursday we were all sick, and it was like, ugh, people washing their hands and wearing masks. Now it's like, this is great, nobody got nothing. So yeah, you're swabbing me a couple times a week, but I don't know if any of you have been on a site where suddenly the whole crew has the flu or stomach virus. It sucks, but we didn't have any of that, and I hope we continue. I don't mind wearing a mask now because it's part of the day, and I hope that we continue having the mindset of keeping each other safe. Now is the greatest thing we've realized, is being safe. And watching what you made. Like, I watched the show I traveled with all over the country, and like, there I am getting interviewed by Mike Rowe, and he's asking me all these COVID questions, and I wasn't going to be on camera. And the first day back in Baltimore, he calls me in, and I'm like, hello, hi. And then I'm talking in my weird red shirt, and
wow,
4 episodes, and we flew all over. I was in Reno, and all of a sudden Reno had a huge outbreak, and we're interviewing people. And yeah, it was something, but we've come out good in the end. We really have.
How many people, I mean, so many people instantly lost jobs, and NEP, of course, had to furlough so many, 2/3, I think. I mean, in the film community, where's it at right now, and where's the future? Where does it feel like it's going to be in a year from now? And some people will never come back.
We're killing it. We're killing it right now. I mean, we're killing it. We just finished Archive. 550 people tested every week in Cadence, and then we moved on to now this other project, and I'm in the head of figuring out how to do it the same way. We counted out, and hopefully it'll go this way, that we can do some plate shots with over 1,000 people. Meaning we shoot a quarter of that and then plate shot the rest of what we want to do. And I'm hoping that we can just move right into, like what Dawn said, the next feature coming. All of our medical people that are here, the health and safety people, and now the new people. We've really out of nowhere received health and safety people that have joined our team. Health and safety monitors, health and safety testers, people who would never want to come in the industry are suddenly here. And this goes back to what was said in the first segment. I believe someone said, how do I get in the industry? We're always looking for health and safety people now, because we need to train them. and you can't like understand. If I drop a normal person into our jobs, they'd have no idea what we do. And I would love to bring in new people to health and safety from any diverse community. I don't, and that's because what we are is diverse. But when we shut down, it was 550 people got laid off in a week. And then my wife and my son were in my living room because he was home too. And then it was like, what's going on? Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, we've got everybody back to work, and we always need more people. And we're putting some workforce training programs together now too. So, but yeah, we've got everybody back, so we're happy about that.
That's great, great, great. Well, continued success and moving forward with that. I'm still looking at questions because again, I lose track of time.
Ed's waving his hand.
Fun stuff. Okay, because we still have to wrap up the meeting itself.
Just I'm interested because we were just talking about bringing people into the industry. Dan and Glenn, is NEP still operating your training program, or was that put on hiatus for a while, or is that going to come back? Because I know that program's been great and brought a lot of people into the industry. So
yeah, no, our training program really never stopped, and it's back. And just like as Dawn said, we need people also. We're looking for that next generation. I mean, from our training program, which started probably 12, 13 years ago, I mean, I think we've graduated almost 75, 80 folks that are EICs on major mobile units currently and throughout the industry. Actually, Dan started in that program, and he's our vice president and chief engineer. So it's been very fruitful, and yes, we want to continue to grow it. So it's up and running. We've worked with some of the schools, and we have some co-op programs going now. So they're actually getting credits for working with us. So yeah, we're continuing to expand that.
That's great. That's great. I remember George told me about that program years ago, and I'd never heard of such a thing, that a company would do something like that to train people. And I thought that was a great program. So I'm glad it continues.
I saw a picture the other day on a company site of 20 young folks who had just started the apprentice program in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Let me add something that is of interest to anybody that's a member of SMPTE. SMPTE has, or will be approved at the board meeting in June, a formal internship program where SMPTE will be funneling some money out to help people support themselves while they're doing internships. Not necessarily exactly like what is happening at NEP, but in other parts of the industry as well. So keep your eye out for some more details on that program. It should be really nice.
Yeah, and one thing for the group, I mean, as these technologies change and you're remoting things and it's all IEP, that, we need people that understand that, grew up with that. We really found it great to kind of, partner a guy who's been doing it for 25 years, who understands the importance of what he's doing, how you can take someone's multi-million-dollar show off the air with one patch cord, with the younger kid who gets the networking and the computer and, even just the lifestyle of the road. It's a lifestyle. So if anyone is interested, as Glenn said, nepgroup.com, there's the careers, look us up. There's a branch program, there's engineers. There are a lot of opportunities across the globe.
It's a rare bird that can do all that. Understand that technology's got to be used creatively, resiliently, and that things will break right when you don't want them to.
Right, I'm gonna,
yeah, on the air. What's that? A quick comment, and then I think we should run to the closing remarks from John, because we do have a little stuff after that, really short. But Leah is saying to Casey and Don, Lee, she says, for the awesome works, thanks. And speaking of bringing people in, where can she find the link or access to more info on all this?
pghfilm.org.
Very cool. And there's probably links there for events coming up or relating to crewing.
Events, jobs, other stuff, and my email's there too. So, feel free to email me if you can't find what you need, and we'll hook you up with Casey and get you in as a COVID safety officer.
Sweet. Wear the red shirt.
We go through a lot of them.
You get to tell celebrities to behave themselves.
Well, no, there's rules.
Yeah. Cool. To everyone else I'm looking at on camera, does anyone have any other questions they need to get out? Or are you good with us jumping on to the next? Nope, I see nothing. Okay, great. So closing remarks, John Humphrey, you've got some things to say.
Yes, I would be remiss, and the section would be remiss if we didn't mention about membership and the value of membership. Obviously, the most immediate thing is networking with others, like-minded people who are interested in the same things that you are. Certainly attending meetings and networking, whether it's virtual or in person, is extremely valuable. The other thing is learning about the technology, learning about new things, staying up with what's happening in the industry, as well as hard engineering things. And I think that's very valuable. And of course, the SMPTE conference. So those are some of the reasons that you should consider membership in this section and in SMPTE. Bill might have a remark or two about SMPTE Plus.
Yeah, SMPTE Plus was introduced to me really just today. That I think they've got 4 programs coming up. They are free. Now I'm trying to remember this by rote, but they are free to members. And one is all about colorimetry.
That's easy for you to say.
Maybe in a through. So that's coming up, which would be fascinating. There's another one coming up on ST2110 IP video stuff again, and a couple more that they have planned, 4 per year, fully complimentary to members. So sounds pretty cool. And I don't know if they're going to record these and make them available for offline use, or just if you have to show up live and do it as a webinar. I'm not sure, but they're really smart about, the 3 triads behind SMPTE, and you and John know, both you Johns know so well what that is. And
John, did you have something that you'd like to add about SMPTE membership?
No, I think the most important thing is that during this hiatus, we realized that it's been hard for people to remain a member of SMPTE if they don't have an income. If you have a hardship case, you should probably contact SMPTE headquarters. They may be able to help you through that. We're certainly interested in the students in the area. That, by the way, if you're a first-year student, that is completely free. So you can have access to the SMPTE Journal online for free for the first year. And I think it's a whopping $10 a year as a student after that. So there's some tremendous benefits to you individually, and it would help us sort of regain some of the momentum we had before the pandemic did what it did to all of us.
Right, and that's one of the good points about student interactivity. We used to have a very high number of student members, and since students come and go and churn through the system, of school, they don't always stick around. So that's something that we have to lean forward and kind of engage again. And I know that we've talked, all of us, about some strategies on how to do that. So, and if you are a student, please get a hold of us. The next slide will have the next and final slide will have information on that. Because we really do need to know, let me just jump to that now. We really do need to know what you think, what you need. Not that we can necessarily help in one person exactly with unique needs that we haven't figured out yet, but who knows, you may have this perfect idea that is stellar and focused on what we've been thinking about and not maybe thinking nobody would like. Well, maybe it's exactly what lots of students need. So we are social, right? And we're social because we're not on Instagram. We do have a Twitter feed, but we don't tweet a whole lot. But we do use our the website. By the way, if some of you have noticed, they changed quite a bit at SMPTE headquarters. Our look, they have a new content management system, and over last year when we were sort of kind of shut down, they took away everything we had. Now some of the assets are still there in different places, and the videos that I would record, and Ed would he'd edit them at heads and tails, and maybe shorten them and put them up online. Those are there. So we are slowly repopulating it into the new framework. But our email address will continue to be SMPTEPittsburgh@gmail.com, SMPTEPittsburgh@gmail.com. And we do have a Facebook page where we try to keep up to date as well. I think one of our biggest challenges is always checking for emails. So try to get in touch with us because we'd like to know what you think. And when you sign off, there's 12 of you still on. When you guys and gals hang up, so to speak, you'll get a questionnaire coming up. Please tell us what you would like to see. And in fact, if you think too many emails, say that as well. Everything counts.
Bill, I wanted to thank you for being the moderator tonight. You did a great job. And the first one is always the most difficult one. And we pulled it off really well. I'm very pleased with it. For those that are still here, yes. For those that are still here, please note, this isn't an isolated event. We plan these monthly, and please stay tuned for more information about the next SMPTE Pittsburgh section meeting.
Yeah, totally. Ed sends out those invitations, and he's chomping at the bit to send out the next one. And so you will be getting something as soon as it's nailed down. Because right now the group is looking to try to find the right presenters who can present on a date. Even if we don't fly them in, we at least got to get them to show up at a certain time, and they may be booked already. So there's some logistics there. And where did everybody else go? It's just me.
Well, we're
Well,
here.
sorry.
We're just not using our cameras.
We're all
Sorry,
here.
Bill, we left
Yeah,
you.
we're here. Come on now.
Yeah, I've left. I went to watch TV.
It's like the windows were all closing down, and I look and it's just me, and I'm like, oh my,
I'm all by myself.
I feel much happier now seeing all of you.
It's all good, Bill.
So now we're just kind of
Turn
like
my camera back on now. You feel better, Bill?
completely. Okay, I'm actually going to take a screenshot. Everybody wave at your camera. We're going to use this for something. Wave and smile. Got it. But yeah, this has been great, and we still have 11 folks hanging in. Okay,
Bill, it's time to play the clip.
Oh yes, great idea. Because George had, and by the way, I'm going to play George's clip, but there's a clip that I shot that I thought last minute might be interesting too. The one that I shared with Dawn and John and George that I did about PA tax credits and Mogul Mine Studios for that e-zine news piece about 10 years ago. It was a tour of Mogul Mine Studios when they were making the cars for that train wreck movie. Great tour of the place and how the tax credits really matter to the film industry and how they impact, what comes and goes. So I have that video if you want to see that. It's about 5 minutes. First, stop me talking.
Here's the setup on this clip. It's from Oscars 1996. And for those of you who do this for a living, you know why we do it. For those of you who don't, or just starting out in a career, here's a little snippet of maybe why we all go to work every day.
Oh, this is gonna be great. It's
I will caution you, there's a couple naughty words near the end, but hey, it's 1996.
Looks to be about just under 5 minutes. Enjoy.
And cue him.
The Oscar goes to?
Stand by boxes.
For this rehearsal only, Fargo, Joel Cohen for Fargo.
Oh, there she is. There she is. Right there. Right in front of you. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Wow, how very exciting. First, let me thank all the wonderful, wonderful people.
In this kind of a genre, you listen to the speeches. When I go up there and I win, in all probability, I'm going to thank, if we know the history of these shows, my mother, my father, my agent, the producer. But there's one man that's been very influential in my life and put me here today, if it wasn't because of him. Now, I've got 6 guys out there. I'm going, who's he talking about? Who's he talking about? That's me in the booth going, who's he talking about? Who could it be? Read his bio, read his bio. Well, he was influenced by Sir Laurence Olivier. Is Laurence Olivier? Yes, he's in the back. Go get Laurence Olivier. And about the time he says, and that man is Laurence Olivier, bam, I cut it in, there's Laurence Olivier. And I go, yes!
To air, everybody.
Oh, thank you. 45 seconds to air, ladies and gentlemen. 45.
In 10, 9, 8,
Ready, A.
7, 6, in 5, 4, 3, 2, roll.
Live from Los Angeles, California.
Okay, stand by.
Academy Award.
And 10's on. Light them up. Ready, 3, and 3, and cue her. Ready, boxes.
And the Oscar goes to
Boxes.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
You got it. Blow him. Incredible. Ease back and stay with them. Ready, 12. 12. Ready, back to 11. 11. Ready, 15. 15. Ready, 9. Hold 9. 9. Ready, 12. 12. Ready, 15. 15. Let's see them get that Oscar now. Right up on him. Ready, 3. 3.
I know I have a little bit of time,
Stay
so
with
I'm
the previous
rush to say
guys.
everybody.
Get the other nominees.
I won't be mad at you. Tom said, don't forget to thank your wife.
Ready, 11.
I will never forget
11.
to thank my high school sweetheart and the
Ready,
mother
3.
of my
3.
children.
Who's got her?
Spencer and Mason.
Who's got her? 9. Ready, 9. Ready, 11. 11.
I love you, Sarah. And my
Ready,
my
2.
parents who are here, Shirley and Cuba the first.
Ready, 3.
And,
15 has the exit, the 60 commercial.
God, I love you. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father God, for putting me through what you put me through, but I'm here and I'm happy.
No, no. Music, music.
I just want to, here we go. Okay, the studio, I love you, and Cameron Crowe, and Tom Cruise. I love you, brother. I love you, man.
Ready, ready, 11, 11.
Keith Butler.
Keep it playing. Ready, 3, 3. Keep it playing, keep it playing.
You did a
There we
great
go to
job.
6.
We made the movie.
To 6.
Everybody involved with the movie.
Ready, 12, 12. Ready, 13, 13. Ready, 10, 10. Ready, 2, 2. Ready, 3, 3. Ready, 12, 12. Ready, 8, 8. 4 minute all lead, 9. 4 minute all lead. Ready, 9, 9. Ready, 2, 2. Ready, 3, 3. Ready, 1, 1. Tell me when, Bill. Ready, 3, 3. Ready, 6, 6. And stand by announce. And announce. Rolling.
Steve Martin, Sandra Bullock, and a performance by Madonna.
What a fucking opening! Woo! Phenomenal! What a fucking opening, man!
That's extraordinary.
All right, all the old Unitel guys on here. What truck was that?
That was Unitel Red, one of the two of the premier analog 4x3 trucks. Spike probably remembers. Glenn, if he's still with us, remembers. Director was Louis Horowitz. TD was JB Field, John Field, and you can just see the number of people crammed in there. COVID now, that's like 2 people and everyone else is in Cleveland. But just sort of stumbled across my inbox today and I went, that's kind of interesting to see how this all works.
It was a
That's
lot of
when
fun.
it really works great. I mean,
A
that's
lot of
the
fun.
A friend
amazing.
sent me a friend directed golf for a while, PGA stuff, and he was so he gave me a similar video years ago. I don't know if I have it on a drive somewhere, but very sleepy, but it's still in the booth calling all the where the ball's going, and it was. This is much more exciting.
You don't see a lot of sports directors with a white vest and tie.
Well, because he had to wear a tuxedo or be formally dressed if he was to go into the theater. All the camera people, when I did that show, I was in a tux. Glenn was probably the same way. That was just the way it worked.
Yeah. You got to look the part, definitely. I don't want to take off of that video to go to this next one, but this is a 5-minute one that just kind of, again, like I said, talks about the tax credits and from 10 years ago when they were threatened. Anyone want to see that? Got some time?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm not in it. I just shot it and edited it. John Yost, who was the guy who's tried to start Mogul Mind Studios, he's talking through it. Unfortunately, it didn't last, and it became 31st Street Studios. And he's still an actor in the area, I'm told, but it's kind of fun to watch. So got up in the crane, did a couple shots. And so, anyway, I'll stop talking. Enjoy.
I'm John Yost. I'm the CEO and president of Mogul Mind Studios. Welcome to the largest studio complex outside of Hollywood. As you can see, Mogul Mine Studios is fantastically large. It's one of the reasons that we were able to attract the largest film ever shot in Pennsylvania, Unstoppable. The landing pad for our prospective heliport is right over there, and we're located on the Allegheny River, a perfect conduit for travel, for scouting, and we plan to use this resource and redevelop it to add jobs and economic stimulus right here to this region. Here we are on the side lot of Mogul Mine Studios. As you can see, I have a lot of vehicles around me. In fact, on our 10.5-acre plot, we have enough parking for about 500 cars, plus tractor trailers and honey wagons and special trailers for the stars. When Denzel Washington and Chris Pine move in here for Unstoppable, they'll use every single spot for the production company. We have the third and the fourth largest sound stages in the world. One is in the UK and one is in LA, but we have the third and the fourth. But the thing that's so unique about our facility is it's 330,000 square feet under one roof. Because Mogul Mine Studios is a media park, we deal with all types of media. We deal with print clients, we deal with film clients such as 20th Century Fox, Sony Pictures, FX, MTV. You know, it was a scary time in our industry just recently when there was a threat of them doing away with the tax credits in Pennsylvania. And it was a very difficult time to discuss these projects with producers because that's one of the very first questions. And unfortunately, the sell is much, much harder without them. What we do is we literally take ourselves out of the conversation because one of the top 3 questions that a producer will ask me is, what is the tax credit situation in Pennsylvania? We started off very small, then moved to this gigantic facility. It used to be the Pittsburgh Flat Roll Steel Company. We revitalized it. It would have just been lying here rusting. And now it's a media park. We do everything from commercials to print, post-production, animation. Let's go take a look.
This is the media side of our establishment. We have Mogul Mine Studios, which is the brick and mortar, and then we also have Mogul Mine Media. Here in post-production, we are delivering final product. So it could be on DVD, it could be direct to air, it could be something that's theatrical. We have done television pilots for places such as Food Network. Whether it's something we shot or whether it's something that was brought to us, shot somewhere else, we're finishing it and putting it together here in this facility.
A lot of people have a misconception that Hollywood has just fallen in love with Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania. It's not true. For the last 40 years, there have been over 400 major motion pictures shot here. They come here for the topography. 10 miniature by water, 10 miniature in the city, 10 miniature out in the forest. They come here for the great architecture. They come here for the unions. They come here for the workforce. And now they come here for the tax credit. What most people don't realize about the movie business and the television business is we have to create the entire world, including vehicles. This takes painters, this takes engineers, this takes designers, and also pyrotechnics. Now that the film tax credits have been renewed, we're very encouraged. What it's done is it's really helped us with a spike in production from Hollywood. They come here to Pennsylvania and they can find an economic situation that really attracts and helps them facilitate their business. When you develop old sites, you have to have an imagination. We've been able to revitalize every nook and cranny of this location. We're in the wardrobe department. There are literally thousands of pieces that have been purchased from local vendors, designed, sewed, laundered for the cast and crew. These tax credits that have been approved by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are a fantastic stimulus, and not only just all of the production that it brings to Pennsylvania, but it's the job creation. I mean, literally 500 people are working on this one project, and it allows us to provide those occupations for all of these people. And it's not just a situation where it's a guy with a camera, or it's a star, or it's a producer. No, we employ welders, carpenters, plumbers, regular laborers, cleanup crew, security. This old steel mill has given birth to a brand new industry, the film industry, a clean industry for Pittsburgh. And it's funny because it's right down the street from the very first Warner Brother Nickelodeon, right on Smithfield Street.
And that's it. Actually, I cut it off.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks for sharing that, Bill. That's great. Yeah.
Always one.
Good job.
I'm
Bill.
John Yost. I'm the CEO and president of Mogul Mind Studios. Welcome to the largest studio complex outside of Hollywood.
It started again.
Always wondered what Hollywood thought when they got to the old abandoned steel mill that thought they were getting a soundstage, but that's another story.
I was trying to get the little last bit of creds out of it, but whatever. Yeah, John Yost was great. I mean, I wonder what it's like inside now, right? I mean, that's 10, 11 years ago. So it's got to have changed a lot, in a good way.
Well, part of it is it's a real estate holding ploy. That's a very valuable piece of riverfront property, and
yeah, you saw that.
You'll have houses and condos
and automated driving vehicle research facilities. I liked how we pointed out the Smithfield. I blur my words these days. A Smithfield Street Theater, the Nickelodeon Theater.
Yep.
That was really cool. That he brought
Yeah,
that
it's
up.
where there was most recently a Sbarro Pizza in its position, but there was I think they took it down when they renovated the building just a few years ago. I don't know. I know that it was supposed to go back up, but there was a placard on the front of the building to commemorate the that Nickelodeon theater. And of course, the building was gone a long time ago, but there was a Sbarro Pizza right there. So, they just renovated that building.
I went looking for the sign once and I couldn't find it. So
yeah, man, so much history in this town.
Yeah, they took it down. They were supposed to put it back up, but I don't know whether they ever did. So, hey, I think it's good nighttime, right?
Yeah, Russ Rockwell from Penn State. I sent him a link earlier today. He checked it out with a colleague, so he just said, "Good night. It's been fun." One of these great points of having these webinars is, like we've talked about, doing them in parallel with the live sessions, is that we can get people who are remote, maybe not able to make every meeting, but can remote in when they can and check it out. So this is, we could ask ourselves what we learned from the pandemic. We, physical and virtual will probably stay together for the future. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it looks like everyone's kind of dwindling down. They're getting back into their cars.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, there's 6 left.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Greg, Heather,
Thank
Jay.
you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
That was great. Good job.
Thank you, everybody, for letting me kind of jump in and own this with all your suggestions. And Glenn, thanks so much for all of your time, man.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn.
You guys brought a lot of gravity to these topics, and that's impressive. Spike, it's good to have you around, man. We appreciate you sticking in.
Good night.
Yeah. Dan, I'll ask
Thank you.
I can ask the section about a new sign there, if you've got the sign.
I got the old one.
Yeah, you got the old one, and I actually went, like I said, and printed this one up as an idea today, but this is awfully flimsy, so it won't last.
Yeah, John, I actually have a bunch of stuff that I need to get to you at some point here. The banner, a whole bag. It's actually George's old blue bag. Still around. Even sign up sheets and all that kind of stuff. So I'll get it to you.
Cool. Well, we'll when we're done here, it'll take a while to process, and we'll have a recording, and we'll have telemetry on people's visits and their questions, and I'll share that with you all next day or so. And here we go. And it's begun.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Safe travel home. Safe trip home. Actually, Dan has to drive home, so.
Yeah, good. Yeah, have a good drive home.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See ya.